Welcome to Central News. I'm Hilary Entwistle. In today's news, one Waikato University student has tackled the problem of corner collisions, which is proving to be a problem in primary school children. Nathan Dibley, an engineering student, has created a talking post which helps people see around a corner to prevent collisions. He says in his research he found 4 recent severe cases in the 2 primary schools he researched, and one where a child had severe teeth marks to his forehead after colliding with another pupil.
Well, I identified that it was in a hazard area around schools and areas with lots of children.
The Dairy Women's Network will work with hundreds of dairying women across the country next month, helping them to increase the return on their investment on rural professional advice. Dairy Women's Network Chief Executive Sarah Spate says dairy farmers on average spend $4,000 annually for advice from rural professionals, and the network wants to help ensure this is money well spent. Sarah says dairying women and their partners want to get the best return possible on the money and time they are investing in rural professional advice. They want to see a noticeable return on their operations bottom line, whether that's in the short or long term, or it's money down the drain. Toyota New Zealand is celebrating 25 years as New Zealand's best-selling car company by paying it forward and donating brand new vehicles to a number of New Zealand charities for 1 year. The Royal New Zealand SPCA is grateful to have been chosen as one of Toyota's lucky charities. Sarah Elliott-Warren, SPCA Saving Lives Ambassador, says the SPCA Saving Lives program aims to increase the save rate of the thousands of animals that come into SPCA centres every year, and it is a crucial part of her role to visit each centre across the country, so a reliable vehicle is crucial. Now for our region's weather. Hamilton, your Wednesday will be mainly fine with light winds and an expected high of 26 and an overnight low of 10. Tauranga, Wednesday for you will be mainly fine with light winds, 26 and an overnight low of 10. Just ahead, a thank you to the residents of Hamilton. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. Both Waikato and Bay of Plenty have officially been declared in drought, but some residents aren't listening to the warnings, so we caught up with Hamilton City Council to find out what happens now.
Water Alert Level 3 means that there is a total ban on sprinklers and irrigation systems, and for commercial and business users there is now restrictions in place for all outdoor non-essential use. What Alert Level 3 does allow is handheld watering using hoses or handheld devices, but they must be in attendance, and these can be used at any time.
How much water are we using as a city?
Hamilton currently is on Alert Level 3, and with this restriction in place we're using around 60 to 70 million litres per day.
How much do we need to reduce that by?
We're not actually asking the residents to reduce any water use any further. They've taken on the message really well, so what we are asking is that they use water sensibly and to ensure that there is water able to be used, particularly during this drought that we're currently experiencing.
How have the recent dry conditions affected Hamilton City?
Hamilton City's been affected. Our sports fields are really hard, and you're seeing the brown is everywhere rather than the lush green that you'd normally see. Our roundabouts in our cities aren't being watered so much, so that they sort of aren't looking as, I guess, glamorous as potentially they could be, but they're holding up really well. Our fountains have been reduced, so we've only got 1 fountain currently in operation in Hamilton, and that's Piranha Park, which provides that family, community, I guess, the ability to go and play with water and use that as a playing area for kids that don't have that at home.
Can neighbours drop people in who are disregarding the water restrictions?
They certainly can. So anyone in Hamilton that has any concerns about improper water use can contact council in a few ways. So there is, they can call us by phone and register their concerns. They can send an email to our city infrastructure customer services team. And we also have an online form that's on our website. But what we do ask when people do ring in with concerns is that they provide us with an address, date and time so that we actually do know what those concerns or in relation to the concerns they've raised.
How can you actually tell specifically what people aren't abiding by the water restrictions?
The concerns that are raised by residents are all logged against a property. So what we tend to see is if a particular property has a number of concerns raised over a period of time, that gives us a clear, I guess, evidence that maybe they're not listening or that they're not understanding the water restriction message that's currently on.
What is the process taken to ensure that people are getting the message?
So what we do is we send reminder notices, so we put reminder notices in letterboxes for those that are being seen as not adhering to the alert levels. We educate by putting out leaflets and also little cards that detail what alert level we're on. If people continue not to adhere or use water improperly, we tend to visit the customer, do the personal face-to-face calls so that they actually can have a discussion and understand the alert levels in a better way and how it affects them.
So when are the restrictions likely to last?
The restrictions are currently dependent. We're currently in a declared drought, and the restrictions that we have in place for Hamilton City are all about the water currently being used and how much water is being used over a period of time, and also the levels within Lake Taupo and the Waikato River.
Do you have any messages for those who are abiding by the water restrictions?
Oh, absolutely. I just want to say thank you for understanding, for listening, and for doing your bit to save water, because the combination of everybody's little bit actually has a significant impact on the water that is being used in Hamilton City. We're currently in a declared drought, so it's just fantastic that people are actually taking on the message.
So how can viewers keep update on what the water restrictions are?
The restrictions are on our website, so you can hook into the Hamilton City website, Water Services. That will detail the restrictions in place and what those restrictions mean. There's also the ability to come in and speak to us, talk to us directly, phone or send through an email if you have or needing further information about them.
Coming up, the South Waikato. Welcome back. The South Waikato District Council's annual plan is up for submissions at the moment. I caught up with the Mayor to learn more. How do you propose to create more jobs in the district?
This is a challenge, and this is a challenge for every rural council in the country. And Natalie Jackson's demographics is actually talking about that, about the global drift, the rural drift, to how we can do it. And it's taking place internationally, nationally, regionally, but we've got to do that which we can. So one of the areas became very business friendly. And so my council gets all its resource consents done within the time frame. And if somebody comes in for a business and gets the answer, they say they want to do it, and the staff say, no, you can't, the axe will fall. What you have to say is, hey, that mightn't quite work. Let's work with you so that we can make it happen. So there has to be a positive area. Business hates being told by a building inspector, do this, and then by somebody else later to do this, and then somebody else to do this. So we brought those together to make it business friendly, so when you meet, you know everything that you have to do. And we have pre-meetings so that they know where to go. So council's job is to make quite certain it's business friendly. This took place when the farm conversions did take place. That right now, Evans Engineering have got the major contract with Kiwi Rail, replacing all the stations on the wagons. We could meet with them and help them go through. The biggest thing we need is investment. And 30% of my time is spent chatting up, talking to investors. So right now I've been invited to China to take over to China a group of investing opportunities to show them what they can take place in the South Waikato, because we are central. We are got the railhead, we've got State Highway 1, we have fantastic water, we have an engineering complex which is the skills of those which export are fantastic. We have buttermilk and the new Dairy Training Institute. These are the things we've got. So my job is to be there as a broker, exposing these funds to the overseas investors and then giving them the chance. And that's why one of the things we're doing out of our 25 million is to set up an economic development trust type area that will be able to stimulate and start doing some of this and letting people know. We haven't been terribly good at advertising the wonders of the South Waikato. You know, we have it, we've got State Highway 1, we've got the new bridge, we've got the traffic going through, so many vehicles going through to our tourist areas, and we've got to do more. So we're working with people like Neil Oppert of the rail cruises, so that line can come towards Putaruru and we can end up with a Putaruru link to Rotorua, onto our river trail, right round the river trail, at to Aitemuri, back to Rotorua. And we will have a link better than the Otago Rail Trail. Now, we have to work on that, and we have to be the facilitator. We're not going to do it all, but we've got to make it easy for people to do it. If you want to invest, come to the South Waikato and you'll find it easy to work with us.
Do you think the council will be trying to do more to put jobs into that forestry sector?
It's not our job to actually go out and say, hey, there's some more jobs here, but we've got to make it better and easier and make quite certain that the roading and the conditions are better for the forestry people. And that's happening. You know, Kinleith is still operating and will continue to operate. Now, sometimes people get a bit worried about, you know, if we do so much conversion, the Kinleith forest is still there. Our basis is still going to be our farming and our forestry. Litchfield is the biggest cheese factory on one site in Australasia. Kinleith is now the biggest timber area. John Key now is selling little bits of the South Waikato to 400,000 New Zealanders. How is he doing that? Because we have 5 mighty river dams on our patch, so that everybody in New Zealand is wanting to buy a little bit of the South Waikato. And so realise that, okay, we produce most of the power for Auckland. We have, you know, the Swaps quarries there. People forget just how economically good we are. We're a major driver, and we just haven't got that message out. We've got to do a little bit better in selling ourselves.
Well, Glenshire Park seems to be a bit of a hot topic. You've got a lot of submissions on that.
Oh, Glenshire Park. Glenshire Park is one of the we've got some of the best sports grounds in the South Waikato. The oval at Tokoroa is recognised as great. Glenshire Park is a fantastic park. It's been neglected because the rugby club moved away and it wasn't being used as much. And so the league has come back, and so we looked at, did we redo the whole of the grandstand there? Wasn't enough use for that. So we've gone in and we've now put, like we did around Lake Moananui, we put a path round it so that people can walk round on it. We're now looking at tidying up the toilets in there so that the league people have toilets there. So we're spending 20,000 on that and some more thousand. We're not rebuilding the grandstand at present, but we're bringing it back into a good area so that it's then good and usable. One of the innovative things that we've done is running the new Sports and Events Centre is the Leisure Services Committee. It's now got the sports and leisure area going at the sports grounds in Tokoroa. Now we have to look to see how we handle all the sports grounds in our district under one committee and stop it being fragmented. And so I expect the Leisure Services Committee now to be looking at Glenshire Park to see how it can be better used. Because it's only used for the School of Zen and some league and a little bit of it. It's a fantastic park. It's not getting used as much as we do. So we've actually got to up its use, like the Te Rao Domain or the beautiful grounds out at Arapuni. We've got to become more efficient, more organised to make quite certain that people recognise that which we've got.
Visit southwaikato.gov.nz to view the annual plan and for submission forms. Just ahead, new research into iPads and young children. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. Have you ever noticed how young kids seem to know exactly what to do with all the new technology, such as tablets and smartphones? Well, the University of Waikato have done 2 recent studies on children with iPads, which revealed some interesting findings.
Well, we're just wrapping up our research project looking at young children and iPads. We call it the iPads and Kids project for short. And in that project, we were looking at how 4 to 5-year-olds were making use of the iPad at the local crash here in Hamilton.
So what age did you base your study on and why?
We were looking at, my collaborator, my research collaborator, Rosina Mary and I, we were looking at young children at the age of 4 to 5 years old. And the reason why we're particularly intrigued is both of us have got educational backgrounds, and the reason why we were particularly intrigued with this particular age group is that we're seeing kids doing amazing things on the iPad, and intuitively it's appealing to them, and they're just running with the iPad use probably a million miles before we adults ever catch on. So we started this research project last year, Rosina and I, to try to understand what were the educational opportunities that the iPad can offer for engaging young children's learning and their interests. So that was, last year. So we're about to wrap it up now.
What did you hope to achieve from this project?
We want to better understand what is it that's so appealing with the iPads for young kids, and see if we can capitalize on those, either the characteristics of the iPad itself, or how teachers can make use of the iPads to engage children, in order that we can get some insights into how we can engage kids and their learning. And for me, this point is particularly very important. Because I was firstly drawn to this project from home, actually. I had my 4-year-old then. We had just gotten an iPad for our family, but of course he had to run with it. And he was using the iPad, and I asked him this question: what is it that's so appealing about the iPad? And he said, "Mommy, it's I can tap it, I can slide it, I can turn it off. It's like a matter of fact." And that was quite insightful for me, because I'm an educational researcher, but the kind of technologies that I've been working with teachers and students have always been point-and-click technologies up until this point in time. And so what my son told me was quite insightful, because it's telling me things that there's something about the visual and the tactile characteristics of the iPad, which is making it quite appealing for young children. And the fact that ownership, they can turn it off, they can turn it on. So that was what got me interested in the project.
What advantages do you see for children using iPads at such a young age?
Let's not underestimate how smart they are, because they really are. First and foremost, that was why we undertook the project. We knew that there would be certain queries about the age group, but we're seeing kids run and do amazing things with it. So why not? Why not try to better understand how we can capitalize on this tool in order to engage young children and their learning? And we have seen amazing examples of how that can be played out in a crash context. We worked with 2 teachers at the local crash to try to understand and explore different ways that they can use the iPads with the kids. And we have seen some wonderful examples of how they have used the iPad as a relational tool to help kids build relationship between the home and Centrelink, as an informational tool to get information about dinosaurs or whatever it is that they're interested in, as a communicative tool to explore space and time modes of communication, and also as an observational tool, to take photos and to take videos of a particular phenomena that they're interested in. So there are certain advantages even to engage kids at such a young age, and I think we can make use of that in education.
And what conclusions can you draw?
I would be very careful to say that the iPad is not a magic pill for all our educational problems, but it certainly does offer important opportunities that teachers can capitalize on. And it does have implications for teachers at the early childhood education sector, as well as teachers in early primary classrooms, because you're getting a cohort of children who are very knowledgeable or who are familiar with this kind of visual, tactile, instant access to information. interaction, and you can make use of that in your classes to engage their learning.
Well, thank you, Elaine. And Gary, tell us about your project. It's quite similar, isn't it?
Well, I've always been interested in the use of these devices that are becoming so prevalent in schools, particularly in the junior area of the school. A lot of the literature, promotes the iPad as being very good for independent learning and for independent activities. And I was really interested to see how young children, 5-year-olds, new entrants, new to school, could use these effectively for problem solving and for developing basic numeracy and literacy skills.
So what were the 2 goals of your project?
Well, the first goal was really, we set up a pseudo-experimental study, a little quasi-experimental design, to look at the comparison between the use of the iPads for developing phonics skills and with apps supporting that, and a teacher-led model. So we had a group that was working with the apps on the iPads, and we had another one that was following a similar program but didn't have use or have access to the iPads. So that was the first part of the trial. The second part was looking to see how the students navigated their way through the apps, completely independent of teacher input. So we wanted to find a unique way of monitoring their activities so that we weren't having teachers looking over or a researcher looking over the shoulder taking notes or a third-party video. We wanted to find out what was really happening when the teacher wasn't there.
What discoveries did you make from that?
We found out a lot about what makes good app design for young students. And the best apps we found were the ones that really emulated the way that the teacher taught. So in other words, as the teacher does in a classroom, provides a structure, a set of operating parameters, a clear pathway through the app without interruptions, time for reflection, time for practice, a game component balanced out with a teaching component and so on. And those are the ones that the students really benefited from. And the sort of data we got was very natural data because it was actually recorded by the device rather than by someone looking. So we didn't get that kind of observer effect going on. So at the moment we're going through and collating a series of principles which will inform those designers of educational apps just how to get the best out of them.
And what conclusions can you draw from your project?
Oh, I think the iPad devices, as in Elaine's scenario, are wonderful things. But I think the designers and the researchers and the teachers need to get together and share notes about how these things can be really improved to help these kids learn. Because a lot of app designs, which are free on the App Store, on Apple's App Store, aren't particularly helpful because they're not really designed with pedagogical concepts in mind. And I think working together in a three-way relationship like that can really help improve the potential of these devices.
Very interesting studies. We would be interested in finding out more on how these projects proceed. That is the news for today. We really want you to be involved, so like us on Facebook and let us know your views. If you have news including your own video and photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. I'll be back tomorrow night with more guests from in and around the regions. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.